欢迎参加国务院联防联控机制举办的新闻发布会。今天发布会的主题是水利保障疫情防控和复工复产。我们请来了水利部规划计划司司长石春先先生、水利工程建设司司长王胜万先生、运行管理司司长阮利民先生、农村水利水电司司长陈明忠先生、水旱
of the Joint Prevention Control Mechanism of the State Council. The topic for today's press conference is water resources and how to ensure the adequate supply of water to the work resumption in China. We have with us DG Shi Chunxian from the Department of Planning, DG Wang Shenwan from the Department of Water Project Construction, DG Ruan Liming from the Department of Operation Management, DG Chen Mingzhong from the Department of Rural Water Resources and Hydropower, and DG Tian Yitang from the Department of Flood, Drought, and Disaster Response. So they will take questions concerning the water resources and the water resource projects. Let me first give you the update of the pandemic. Yesterday, China's mainland reported for new confirmed cases 67, new fatal cases 58. All of them are imported cases, and new fatal cases 6. All of them are in Hubei. Yesterday, there are 401 cases cured and discharged from hospitals, close contacts removed from medical observation 721, and the number of severe cases dropped by 164. By the end of yesterday, the provinces, municipalities, and administrative regions and the Xinjiang Production and Construction Corp reported that the remaining confirmed cases numbered 3,947, including 1,235 severe cases. In total, there are 74,051 cases cured and discharged from hospitals, 3,287 death cases, 81,285 confirmed cases, and 159 suspected cases. In total, close contacts traced numbered 695,305, and close contacts still under medical observation numbered 14,714. Yesterday, there was no new confirmed case in Hubei, no suspect cases, and no remaining suspected cases. For newly increased cured and discharged cases 391, including 382 in Wuhan. New fatal cases 6, including 5 in Wuhan. The remaining confirmed cases numbered 3,431, including 3,407 in Wuhan. For the severe cases, it is numbered 1,201, including 1,195 in Wuhan. In total, 61,201 cases are cured and discharged from hospitals, including 44,068 in Wuhan. And for fatal cases, 3,169, including 2,531 in Wuhan. In total, there are 67,801 confirmed cases, including 50,006 in Wuhan. Yesterday, between 0 and 24 o'clock, the newly reported, confirmed, and imported cases numbered 67, including 18 in Shanghai, 12 in Inner Mongolia, 11 in Guangdong, 6 in Beijing, 6 in Fujian, 3 in Shanxi, 2 in Tianjin, Zhejiang, Jiangsu, and Yunnan, respectively, and 1 in Shanxi, Jilin, and Henan, respectively. By the end of yesterday, in total, there are 541 cases imported and confirmed. In total, there are 675 cases reported from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau, including 410 from Hong Kong SAR, 30 from Macau SAR, and 235 cases from the Taiwan region. Yesterday, the mainland China reported no confirmed or suspect case, and 25 provinces and municipalities have no remaining confirmed or suspected cases. 23 provinces reported imported cases from overseas, and the pressure to prevent the spread of the pandemic is still daunting, and we need to get prepared for pandemic response. So let's have the Q&A. And please focus on today's topic and put forward your questions. Please identify yourself first. Now the floor is open. The first question on the right, on the front row, the third lady reporter, please. Thank you. With the CCTV financial channel, Premier Li Keqiang points out that the development of farmland and water resource projects are of critical importance. So what are the measures adopted by the Ministry of Water Resources to urge and encourage the work resumption in water resources, especially in rural areas? We will have Mr. Chen to answer the question. Thank you very much for your question. For the water supply in rural areas, it is indeed an important guarantee project for people's well-being. During the epidemic, we have accelerated our efforts to ensure adequate supply of water. In terms of work resumption, we have adopted the following key measures. First, we have accelerated the coordination with NDRC and distributed this year's budget. Altogether, we have allocated 1.5 billion RMB yuan for the water resource project in rural areas. And second, we have come up with tailored guiding efforts to encourage the localities to resume the water resource projects and help them to address the problems. And thirdly, in the water resource projects, we have adopted some innovative approaches. For example, in some localities, there are water resource projects which are related with poverty alleviation. So we have adopted new forms of communication like a video conference and make the projects more solid-based with adequate supply of the means of production. And now the results have been quite positive, and for the overall work resumption rate, it is over 93% nationwide. Let's have the next question on the right, on the front row, the first lady reporter with CCTV. In order to improve the economy, has the ministry planned any new projects? And if yes, what are the job opportunities that can be created by such new projects? We will have DG Shi to answer the question. Thank you very much for your question. And also thank you for your interest and support for water resource projects. Just as you have rightly pointed out, the key water resource projects are important components to ensure the water security, which is a national strategy. It is also an important part to overcome the short link or the weak links in water supply. The government has adopted an active approach and has mobilized the stakeholders. At the moment, these projects are going on smoothly. We have identified 172 major water resource projects, and the scale of such projects, which are already resumed operation, have reached or exceeded 1 trillion RMB yuan. Also, for water resources projects, apart from ensuring water supply, they also enjoy advantages in two aspects. The first is that these major projects have a large coverage and can create a lot of job opportunities. So it is fair to say that they can push forward the economic development or stimulate the economic growth. And the second advantage is that these water resource projects have been solidly studied and enjoy the sound conditions to resume the operation.
In this context, we have predetermined some important water projects that have been well conditioned. According to our initial consideration, in the next 3 years, there might be 100 plus projects. For this year, a dozen of projects with a total investment of over 1 trillion RMB. These have been well-conditioned water projects. So once the conditions are prepared and ready, we can directly move into actions. As to water projects' effects in promoting economic development and creating jobs, China Macroeconomic Research Institute has proposed a research result. Major water project for every 1,000 RMB investment may drive GDP growth of 0.15 percentage points and can create 490,000 new jobs, promising very good economic returns. So we'll continue to have a sound accountability system and make solid preparation for the starting of these projects. Thank you. Next question, please. Thank you. With South China Metropolitan News, with the resumption of business, water projects have been restarted as well. What is the general status? Thank you. I'd like to ask DG Wang Shangwan to take the question. Thank you for your question. Water Resources Ministry has been following the instructions from the State Council, the Party Central Committee, and the President Xi to use hydraulic engineering projects to make more contribution to economic growth. Meanwhile, we prevent and control the epidemic. We focus on the resumption of the hydraulic engineering projects. Currently, the progress has been smooth. The ongoing 110 projects have seen a resumption of 101 projects, 92% of the total. Apart from the handful of projects that are still under climate influences, others have resumed their construction. And the small handful of projects didn't start their operation. It was because they are in northeast and northwest of China, where the climate is still cold, the weather is still cold. As of the end of March, we planned to resume the operation of 100 projects, and we have realized these targets ahead of schedule. And it employs 100,000 people, including the potable water in Jiangxi, the Guangxi Dam project, and altogether 33 major projects have seen a normal construction level. We've been actively promoting other major hydraulic engineering projects. Apart from the major projects, we also pay attention to the small size engineering projects. Up till now, 90% small projects have been resumed. The small and medium-sized water river treatment have seen 70 to 80% of the resumption. And among all these resumed projects, there has been no cropping up of any epidemic. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the fifth row on the right side. With Phoenix TV, Hubei has a concentration of major hydraulic engineering. So during the epidemic response, how did you manage the hydraulic engineering projects in Hubei province? DG Ruan Limin is taking the question. Thank you for your concern in these major hydraulic projects. Yes, indeed, Hubei province has 6,000 plus water reserves and mileage of 52,000 kilometers of major banks. During the COVID-19 prevention and control, the projects have been running stable. 3,000 plus water reserve has a water reserve of 4.3 cubic meters, providing conditions to the epidemic prevention, control, and the resumption of businesses on many fronts. During the COVID-19 response, water projects have been running smoothly. There was no safety hazard. Besides, these projects have ensured water supply to city and rural areas. The water quality, water quantity have reached the standards. These water projects have also served the irrigation in villages. In the 523 irrigation basins, the irrigation has met the needs of spring plowing. Besides, there has also been preparation against drought and flood prevention. Work has been pushed forward step by step and well managed. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the second row on the left side. Thank you. With China Media Group, CRI. The potable water project in rural areas carries great significance in improving the health of the population in rural areas. How did we ensure the safety of potable water in rural areas during the COVID-19 response? Thank you for your concern. DG Chen Mingzhong is taking the question. Indeed, the COVID-19 has put us under a test, also a very difficult one. During the normal hours and compared with the COVID-19 response, there has been a sudden increase of the water consumption needs. Some of the migrant workers have been stranded in rural areas, so there has been a sudden surge in the needs. Also, the maintenance it was put under a grim test as well. Water resource departments have overcome the difficulties and ensured management of the safe running of water projects. Up till now, the operation has been normal and stable, providing water supply to the COVID-19 response. We've issued 2 policy circulars to put forward specific requirements. We've also set up a drainage-based coordination mechanism. Our requirements have been distributed through different drainage basins. We've consolidated accountability. First, the water plants have been put under random checks and parachute inspections. We've made sample random inspection into 2,000 plus water plants to see if they have been running stably. We've also used telephones to make random checks into the water authorities at the county levels to learn about their conditions and situations. We've also been following closely the whistleblowers, telephones, and platforms at the provincial and municipal levels. We've also made phone calls to the poverty-stricken households to check if they have met difficulties in using water. We've set up a 12314 whistleblower platform to learn about the complaints from the rural citizens. So with all these random checks, the general situation has been good. 95% of the projects have been running stably and normally. Grassroots level water authorities and water plants have their staff on positions. Problems were checked and dealt with immediately. We've also found certain problems. Because of the sudden surge in water demand, there was some explosion of the water pipes, the sudden shortage of water supply, the water cannons, and also the purification equipment were not purified and disinfected enough. All these problems were dealt with and corrected immediately. For example, some of the morning identified problems were dealt with in the afternoon. So water safety in rural areas was ensured.
The outstanding problems are also addressed by cross-region coordination, ensuring the adequate operation of the projects and also water supply. Furthermore, localities are also making every effort to ensure the sound operation. Take Hubei province as an example. Despite the epidemic, the province has set up cross-region or cross-city cooperation mechanism, and more than 10,000 people are engaged in the water projects, and altogether they have dealt with more than 6,000 water supply accidents. The same is true in Beijing. These joint efforts have ensured the adequate supply of water in rural areas. Now let's continue. On the left, on the third row, the third lady reporter, please. Thank you. With the new media of China Media Group, on behalf of the netizens, I'd like to ask about the potential flooding. And is it possible that this year we have an early flooding season and the potential of such disaster? And last but not least, what are the challenges posed by this pandemic to the Hubei provincial efforts against the flooding disaster? We will have DG Tian to answer the question. Thank you very much for your question. And thank you so much for your support to us in dealing with the pandemic and ensuring the water resources are adequately supplied. Indeed, natural disasters account for 70% of the total disasters China is subjected to. And according to the weather forecast agencies, this year the situation is quite complicated. And also, just as you have rightly pointed out, this year there is a high probability of heavy floods, and such floods may appear at the same time across the country in different parts. So, following the previous planning and arrangement, we will keep alert against the potential risks. For the Ministry of Water Resources, the bottom line is to get prepared for the potential flooding risk. We have focused on 3 efforts. The first is to maximize our capacity. As you may know, after 70 years of development, now our flooding defense system is able to deal with the largest flood that we have ever encountered since the founding of New China. And if there is an even heavier flood, then we need to adopt ad hoc measures. That's why this year we have required all the major branches and the major cities who are susceptible to the floods to develop sound response plans to ensure the safety of the people, and second, to ensure the safety of the water reservoirs. Now in China, we have more than 8,000 major reservoirs and 4,000 medium-sized reservoirs. These large and medium-sized reservoirs can play many functions. They can store the water and also help the downstream cities to guard against the flooding. Also, we have a large number of small reservoirs. These reservoirs were mainly built in the 1970s, and they may not be well equipped to deal with the major floods. So we request that these small reservoirs should get ready for the potential flooding, and also they are asked to get prepared to send out alerts to the downstream population. Also, we have the mountain floods. A lot of regions, or 3.8 million square kilometers of land are susceptible to the mountain floods, and over 70% of the casualties are caused by the mountain floods. That's why we need to have the early warning system well established. And also, we are having the responsibility system, which is based on the communities and works like a highly responsive network. So, in case of mountain flood, the people should be moved out of the disastrous area as early as possible. So this year, working together with the 3 major telecommunication service providers, we are sending out the relevant messages. Previously, there were scenarios when travelers or tourists are unable to receive such warning messages, and this year we are improving this alert system. Let's continue on the right, on the third row, the third lady reporter in black, please. Thank you. With Business News Daily, we noticed that yesterday the Ministry of Water Resources worked out a policy document outlining the major criteria for the water resource projects. So my question is there a big impact caused by the pandemic on the major water resource projects in China? We will have DG Wang to answer the question. Thank you. Since the outbreak of COVID-19, the major water resource projects are affected more or less, especially in the south part of the country and in Hubei province. The work resumption was postponed compared with previous years, and they are usually about 1 or 2 months behind the schedule. In the north part of the country, the negative impact is not as severe as in the south. However, we have to be aware that such negative impact is transient, and overall, the construction of these water projects are quite positive. And now the production companies or stakeholders have resumed their production or operation, and we are addressing the outstanding problems. Now we are at the stage of guarding against the potential floods, and the projects have been accelerated to get ready for the potential flooding risk. So by optimizing the operation and intensifying the input into the projects, we are now well equipped to catch up with the schedule. The major water resource projects that you have mentioned, one of them was not paused even during the Spring Festival holiday. Construction and project implementation have been going on.
With the concerted effort of all parties, the normal organization has been resumed. 5,500 plus workers are now back on position. 100% of the project has been restored. Following the construction requirements on March the 10th, the reservation of water started. Recently, the first unit of generators and the navigation of ships will also be realized. And another project saw a resumption rate of normal level. Another major project in Henan province has 1,000 plus workers back on their positions. And for the water diversion from the South to North China, this major project was resumed on the 17th of February. 100% of the workers are now back on their workplace. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the first row of the left side. Thank you. From the People Consultative Party News. We are very much concerned about the water south to north diversion project. What are the deployments for the middle part of the eastern line? What have been the adjustments made in accordance with the COVID-19 response? I'd like to ask DG Shi Chunxian to take the question. Thank you for your concern in the south to north water diversion project. 8th of October 2019, on the working group meeting of the later stage of South to North Water Diversion Project, Premier Li Keqiang led the discussion. And there was the establishment of a leadership group headed by the Minister of Water Resources. Specific plans have been worked out. Currently, Ministry of Water Resources is organizing the second phase feasibility study of the middle part of the eastern line. This project involves a long mileage, involves many regions. That's why there was some impact from the epidemic prevention control on the project. For example, the traffic restrictions and the lockdowns have led to some difficulties in carrying out the on-site inspection and survey. Another example was because of the social distancing and cancelling of crowding. The original planned collective office times and the increased working hours have been cancelled. Also, during the epidemic prevention control, a lot of face-to-face communication couldn't be done, including the household survey. The environmental impact assessment could not be done according to schedule. How did we solve the issues? During the epidemic response, we've carried out many targeted measures, but all these could be boiled down to one sentence, that is, precise management on 3 key steps. Precision refers to precise analysis over the risk rate and the risk category in a certain segment of the line. The South to North Water Diversion Project covers and crosses several provinces and involves many departments and institutions. If it goes across a region where is low risk rated, however, if the contractor, institute or entity is located in a high-risk zoned place, then still the employees from the institute who is to carry out the research or survey cannot carry out the work. So we've worked out two maps. One includes the distribution of the south to north water diversion project lines, and the second is a map of the execution entities as to where they locate, and we collaborated with the local governments to ensure precise measures have been carried out. I've mentioned the three key steps, and the first focus, three key focuses. The first focus was the preparatory consultation in online methods. In February, we used a question-oriented approach and conducted video conferences to make scheduling as appropriate and promote the progress of the project. The Designing Institute put forward specific questions, and those questions were dealt with appropriately. The second focus was to urge Designing Institute and Implementation Institutes to innovate their work methods. For example, they can have online offices and homestay work. For the field efforts, they can use the drones and the three-dimensional digital mirrors to make geographical surveys so as to minimize the impact from the epidemic on the projects. And the third focus was early involvement of the review agency. The review agencies set up two experts panels to enhance communication with the Designing Institute and provide one-on-one technical guidances. The Designing Institute, as necessary, they've used the Tencent video meeting, and they've been engaged in communication in WeChat groups to deal with technical issues. With all these efforts, the feasibility study of the Eastern Line has completed most of its assignment as scheduled. We are determined and confident to minimize the impact from the epidemic on the project and prepare everything to ensure an early start of the construction. Thank you. Next question, please. Journalist from the third row on the right side. With Hong Kong China Review, it was reported that during the epidemic response to ensure the water supply along the lower reaches of the Yangtze River for navigation needs and electricity needs, there has been an increase of the release of water. Will there be further changes? Does it mean any impact on the people living along the reaches? I'd like to ask DG Tian Yitang to take the question. The Three Gorges project along the Yangtze River has been one of the treasures of our country. With the project, it has played a major role in drought flood prevention. It can intercept the flood from the upstream and reserve the water and release the water during times of drought for the downstreams. Prior to the establishment of the Three Gorges project, in the first 3 months of the year, there was a drought period. And after the Three Gorges project came into being, we have changed the runoff from the old 4,000 to the current 6,000. And for this year, we've increased the threshold to 7,000. After March, the minimum was readjusted to 9,000 to ensure the water supply for the needs of business resumption. So we have released 9 billion more cubic meters of water for the lower reaches to ensure the epidemic response and resumption of business. Down the road, in response to the needs of epidemic prevention and the resumption of business, we will adjust the water release quantity as needed to ensure the needs are met in electricity generation and also navigation. Thank you.
好，谢谢。
Thank you. Let's continue. On the right, on the second row, the lady reporter to the other side of the seats. Thank you. With CNR, at the moment, in the north part, it is the irrigation season. So, what are the measures adopted by the ministry to ensure the irrigation purpose? We will have DG Chen to answer the question. Thank you. At the moment, an important task for the ministry is to ensure water supply for the spring irrigation. We've done the following efforts. The first is to make sound forecast and ensure the water supply for irrigation. The precipitation compared with previous years is 40% more, and now the water stored by the reservoirs is also 14% more than the previous years. So we enjoy a fairly sound position. And second, we have made timely coordination. We have set up the daily mechanism to make sound coordination. For example, in the Xiaolangdi project in the Yellow River, starting from February the 11th, the water supply has been increased, and the irrigation area has been greatly expanded. And third, we are trying to make sure the maintenance is conducted in a sound manner. We've conducted coordination and communication with the relevant stakeholders. And firstly, we have adopted innovative approaches with telephone, online, video conference, and etc. We have circulated the plan for spring water supply, and we have strengthened the coordination. And for this year's spring irrigation, it is fair to say that it is being conducted orderly. Up to now, 157 irrigation areas have started the irrigation, and over 5.8 billion cubic meters of water have been diverted to the target irrigation areas. All the other localities are also making sound preparation, so we can ensure the adequate supply of water for spring irrigation, and we will continue to ensure such adequate supply. Thank you. Let's continue. On the left, on the fourth row, the lady reporter, please. Thank you. With Hong Kong Economic Herald, how about the water projects going on in China, and what are the supporting roles played by the water resource projects? We will have DG Yuan to answer the question. Thank you. In China, we have 98,000 water reservoirs, and we have a large capacity for water storage and also to guard against the potential droughts or floods. For water gates that have adequate volume to discharge water, the number is also quite large. So in the epidemic period, we have already made two major efforts. First, we strengthen the monitoring on the key projects. In the light of the actual conditions for areas severely hit by the epidemic, we had telephone monitoring conducted in a random way to oversee the abnormalities in the operation of the water reservoirs. And second, based on the telephone check and the reports from the localities, we are addressing the outstanding problems. It is fair to say that with the joint efforts during the epidemic prevention and control, the overall operation of the water reservoirs is sound and there's no abnormality in the operation. Furthermore, the water reservoirs have played their functions to ensure the adequate supply. In some localities, last year, due to the seasonal reason, the irrigation was not conducted adequately. And this year, we have made adjustments to the irrigation plan and also to help the localities to come up with good solutions. Furthermore, we have ensured the supply of the response materials, and we are getting ready for the potential flooding and also the potential droughts in some localities. Now the response is being conducted smoothly, and I think it is fair to say that these water resource projects have strongly supported the work resumption. Due to the time constraint, we can only allow two more questions. Please. On the right, on the fourth row, the lady reporter in black, please. With the paper. What is the biggest risk during the pandemic, and what are the risk measures that you have adopted? We will continue to have DG Ren to answer the question. Thank you. As I have mentioned, in China we have 98,000 water reservoirs, and we have 94,000 reservoirs are of small scale. They were mainly built in the 50s and the 70s in the last century. So they are outdated, and in some reservoirs you may find risk concerning the safety. So in terms of the safety risks, they may cause severe consequences and huge damage to the reservoirs. So the ministry has attached great importance to such risks. For water resource projects which may have such risks, it is requested that the monitoring should be strengthened, and this is considered as one of the key themes in the reform going on in China's water resource sector. For 2 years in a row, we've conducted quality checks on these water reservoirs, and we have identified the specific quality problems in these projects. On the one hand, we have strengthened the oversight and urged the localities to eliminate such risks. And on the other hand, we studied the root causes of such potential risk potential, and emphasized that sound implementation of the corrective measures to dissolve the risks In the pandemic, we have adopted a pragmatic approach and closely monitor the safe operation of the water reservoirs. For Ministry of Water Resources, I have mentioned that two major efforts. The first is the telephone check. For 1,000 reservoirs, we have called them for 9 times, and also we have randomly checked the various water reservoirs, and we have had the daily reporting system and also urged the localities to adopt corrective measures. It is fair to say that during the epidemic containment, the local water resource authorities are closely monitoring the safe operation of the water reservoirs and focusing on our objectives. Key efforts have been adopted.
In particular, in Hubei province, during the epidemic response, 6,000 plus medium and large size water reservoirs have been operating normally. Thank you. Last question for the day. Journalist from the 5th row on the left side. With People's Daily, we have asked that you've mentioned the 12314 whistleblower platform and hotline is to take complaints and whistleblowing from the general public. So how many complaints or whistleblowing from the general public have been received? Have the problems been addressed? Has this approach been effective in letting the Ministry of Water Resources know where the problems are? I'd like to ask DG Chen Mingzhong to take the question. Thank you for your interest in the 12314 whistleblower hotline. And since the beginning of this year, we've set up this hotline. It has been on pilot trial for 2 months. On March the 22nd, the World's Water Day, it came into formal operation. It is an online platform which can also receive the complaints and whistleblowing from the WeChat and social media. So it is a very important approach adopted by us to solicit public opinions and mobilize the entire general public to monitor the projects and to provide whistleblowing where there are problems. Since the setting up of this hotline-based platform, we've received 700 plus clues or complaints from the general public related to the sands collection, the illegal sands collection, the illegal use of water in some rural areas, and we have it is a manned platform to receive the problems and to address the problems. 500 plus of the complaints have been dealt with by Ministry of Water Resources directly. Some of other complaints have been co-dealt by other departments. We also provide feedback and ask the whistleblowers as to whether they are satisfied with the results. After opening this platform, we feel we've harvested a lot from this platform. It helps with the law enforcement. It helps to improve our reform results. This platform is our direct channel to serve the general public. Once there are water-related problems identified by the general public, or if they have met difficulties in use of water, they can go directly to us through these channels. For any of their headache, they can file to us directly, and these problems can be addressed immediately. During the epidemic response, there were 80 plus phone calls on the shortage in water supply, on the problem with the water qualities. We collaborated with the locality and provided urgency maintenance. So it is a direct channel to serve the general public. It has also provided us with a far-sighted scope to look into the problems in different localities and improve the compliance and improve our surveillance. Besides, it can support our scientific decision-making and promote the reform of the water resource system. The media friends may know this well. And sometimes it might be difficult to know the details and the reality. Sometimes we make some random checks to learn the real information, but by setting up this platform, we can have the general public to inform us the real life. And this information help us to make analysis, to identify weaknesses, to learn about the patterns, and to improve our decision-making capacity, improve our surveillance as well. For example, previously, based on the information we've got through the platform, we get informed on provinces where there are major and frequent issues, and we will urge the province to make corrections. And also shortly before, we've found many migrant workers have been stranded in their villages. In the past, they stay home for only 10 days during the spring break, but now they stay home much longer because of the epidemic response, and the water supply factory in villages were put under pressure. One plant in Sichuan province has been operating at full capacity, and the need was around 4 times than the full capacity. So during the 14th five-year plan for the water projects in rural areas, we should factor this into our consideration. Water supply capacity should also consider the emergency needs, and so this information collected through the 12314 platform can support our decision-making in the future. It will be a scientific decision-making and well-informed. However, the platform has been running for only 2 months. Many remote places do not have knowledge of the existence of this platform, so we will disseminate the existence of this platform so that it is known by more. We'd also like to ask all of you, friends of the media, through you we hope this 12314 can be disseminated to the remote citizens in mountainous and remote regions. Once they encounter water supply issues, they can immediately associate their difficulties with the 12314 platform. There is a hotline to call to reflect their problems and to wait for an immediate response. We will continue to improve this platform, improve our capacity in addressing the problems so that people can very much rely on this platform. We'd like to ask friends of the media to disseminate this information. Thank you. I'd like to thank the guest speakers for taking questions. Today we've been talking about the water resource projects and their coordination with the epidemic response and resumption of business. Tomorrow we'll focus on the assurance of spring plowing and the prevention against climate hazards. We will have the officials from Ministry of Agriculture and meteorological departments to take questions. Thank you.